Hi everyone, Meteorologist Emery here in the Fox 19 First Alert Streaming Center on this Saturday for our 10:15 weekend weather show. It took a couple minutes to get everything set up here. Unpacking a lot of information here on this First Alert weather day, this Saturday, tracking some more heavy rainfall as we head into this afternoon, this evening, into tonight. More details on that coming up here in moments. But again, hi everyone, Meteorologist Emery here. We are going to break down some of these details right now. Now, as of 9 o'clock, I'm going to show you the river levels. They're not updated to 10 o'clock just because they update every hour to 2 hours depending on the river and creek. So I will show you those amounts here right now, actually. Let's begin with the Ohio River. In fact, I do want to show you the Newport Levee camera, which does show the rising levels of the Ohio River towards downtown Cincinnati. The Serpentine Wall, you can't see much of it at this point because, of course, the river levels continue to rise. In fact, could climb over the Serpentine Wall. So there's a live look there on our Newport Levee camera. A bit of a reprieve from the rain. It's a little bit drier out there here in the moment, at least according to this camera. 61 degrees, the current temperature. We are going to see temperatures climb up into the mid-60s later today. Sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze there for a second. So again, cloudy skies out there right now, and we are looking at the river levels continuing to rise. Let's first take a look at the Ohio River levels. This is going to be looking at the Markland Lower, Maysville, Meldal Dam, and of course the Cincinnati River gauges. So Maysville currently over more than 45 feet, potentially over 46 feet at this point. But the forecast crest is for Tuesday morning, 54.6 feet. The Meldal Dam, currently over 46 feet. Forecast crest Tuesday morning, more than 54 feet by then. Cincinnati, currently near flood stage at 51 feet. Forecast crest Monday morning, 60 feet. So a lot of water moving in to Cincinnati on the Ohio River. The Markland Lower, also forecast crest at minor flood stage by Monday morning at more than 58 feet. So those are the Ohio River levels. We'll break down some various river levels as well, but I do want to preface by saying we can't show every single river level. It would just take forever. I'd have to show you at least 6 different graphics, maybe 8 or 10, depending on how far we want to go into. But I'm going to show you some of the highlights, some of the ones that are seeing the most impacts. 2 of which near historic. So let's go ahead and begin here with the North Fork Licking River out Mount Olivet. I'll take this up full screen for you, that way you can see it in more view. And I'll go over these slowly, that way you can kind of digest some of the data I'm about to show you here. So the North Fork Licking River at Mount Olivet, flood stage is 20 feet. Currently at 26 feet. It's been steady, but it will rise going into tonight into Sunday morning, with the forecast crest at 27.3 feet. That's moderate flood stage, which again, it's already at moderate flood stage. The Licking River, currently at minor flood stage at 35.4 feet, rising to a crest by Sunday evening of 42.1 feet. That's major flooding, and again, historic. We'll break down those details in moments. The Kentucky River over at Lockport, that's far southwest Owen County. In fact, that's the county line, is the Kentucky River, and it goes into Carroll County, southwestern Carroll County, again, the county line. But the Lockport River gauge forecast to climb up to 55 feet. Again, major flood stage, currently greater than 43 feet at this hour. The West Fork Whitewater, that is in Fayette County, goes into Franklin County, but this river gauge, Alpine, Fayette County. Currently at 14.7 feet, rising to a crest by Saturday evening of 15.9 feet. Now, if you watch the video I posted earlier on Facebook, or the video that's currently playing on our social media, or the website, fox19.com, I said that's near record. I was looking through the data. In fact, I detected an error. There's actually a lot more data that suggests that the record for the West Fork Whitewater River at Alpine is actually greater than 20 feet. So we're not looking at historic levels at the West Fork Whitewater. But lastly, take a look at the Great Miami River over at Miamitown. The Current level right now, 18.6 feet. That's minor flood stage. Forecast crest by Sunday evening at 26.7 feet. And I know that is going to impact great parks over the Miami Whitewater Forest. So if you got folks who might be camping this weekend, in fact, anyone who's trying to plan on camping, I strongly recommend postpone it. Because too often have I seen springtime folks who want to go out. It's nice and warm out finally. They want to camp. The rain doesn't bother them. But when you have flooding conditions and when you have rising waters, when you have forecast additional heavy rainfall, there are instances where folks could be impacted by the high water, could even sweep away things or people. Don't want to see that. So I just do want to say that as a precaution. Also, when you got flooding levels, and I say it every time we get flooding, we say it every time on the news. You hear it often, and it's because so many people fail to understand it. If you see a flooded roadway, turn around, don't drown. Too often have I seen vehicles stuck. You put yourself in harm's way, and then you're also going to put first responders in harm's way. You know, rescue crews, sheriff deputies, fire crews, ambulances if you're injured. All those different resources are going to have to be allocated to help somebody who made a dumb mistake. I'm going to be frank with you. Dumb mistake to travel on a flooded roadway. Okay, so let's take a look at the radar view right now because we are looking at some scattered showers out there. They are relatively light for many locations. However, there are some areas dealing with some pockets of moderate rain. We saw it earlier on Fox 19 in southeast Indiana and portions of northern Kentucky. So once this takes up in view, you can see we still have some of that moderate rain over towards portions of Grant and Pendleton counties, also Mason County, southern Adams into Lewis County, some moderate rain there. Even some moderate rain over towards Decatur and Ripley County, indicated by these darker shades of green, even some yellow showing up here. And the trend has been this rain moving to the east-northeast. And do note, as I discussed on Fox 19, there will be a bit of a reprieve, a bit of drier air working in for the midday and early afternoon. You can even see it towards Indianapolis. So this drier air is going to work in for the lunch hour. So if you got plans, maybe you're heading to the Cyclones game this afternoon, the good news is that it's going to be more dry than wet. That being said, you will need the rain gear because more rain is moving in later today into tonight. In fact, because of that, we do have an excessive rainfall outlook, moderate risk. That's a level 3 out of 4. And it's that risk of flooding could result in flash flooding. And that moderate risk are for areas highlighted here in red. If you know your state highways or U.S. highways or interstates, it's pretty much along and south of U.S. Route 50, if you know where that is. If you don't know, just think of it as areas along and south of the Ohio River primarily, as well as Claremont, Brown, Adams into southern Highland counties, and of course southern Ripley and Dearborn counties, all of Ohio and Switzerland counties, and all of northern Kentucky and northeastern Kentucky. Moderate risk because of the heavy rainfall. Now we do have a conditional risk for strong thunderstorms here this evening. The timeline right now looks to be after 6 o'clock, and that risk is a slight risk. So if you recall, yesterday was also a slight risk, and we did have a severe thunderstorm warning in Warren County, and also I think Montgomery and Greene counties. Greene County had baseball-sized hail, roughly. It was 3-inch diameter. I believe the actual indicator for that is lime-sized, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, very large hail. Warren County had quarter-sized hail or 1-inch diameter hail. So that was yesterday into last night. Today, it's a conditional risk for strong thunderstorms for areas in yellow. Owen County, Grant County, Pendleton, Robertson, Mason, Bracken, Lewis counties, Brown, Adams, Highland, southern Claremont counties, all in this slight risk of severe weather. Now, there is all modes of severe weather on the table for any storm that does develop. Primarily, though, it looks like the potential for hail and damaging straight-line winds. The tornado threat, it's low, but it's not zero. We can't rule it out. The way this system's been behaving, it's been throwing everything at us this week but the kitchen sink. Not just for us, but across the entire region, dealing with a lot of significant weather. That's why we've been issuing a lot of first alert weather days, because it's been very impactful, of course. So that's what we've got going on. Today's high, 66 degrees. I did lower it a little bit compared to what we showed you earlier this morning on Fox 19. And I will take a look at the forecast model data, but before we do that, we'll take a look at the Facebook comments and questions. I've been talking for about 10 minutes now, roughly, of the river levels, oh, I never showed you the historical numbers. Let's do that real quick, then we'll take a pause, and then we'll dive into the model data. So Licking River and Kentucky River. We'll begin with the Licking River over in Pendleton County, over at Falmouth. The forecast crest is 42.1 feet. That's going to be Sunday evening. If that verifies, that would be the third highest crest on record for the Licking River in Falmouth. Of course, everyone knows, if you're in Pendleton County or know the region well and have been here for a while, the record is 51.8 feet and 97. We're not going to be anywhere close to that, fortunately. The next highest is 47.1 feet, back on March 10th, 1964. Again, this is the Licking River. Our forecast, greater than 42 feet. So major flooding is in the forecast for the Licking River. The third, if the forecast verifies, the third highest river level on record for the Licking River. And then we have the Kentucky River. Again, this is for far southwestern Owen County and Carroll counties. The river gauge is officially at Lockport, which is just outside the Fox 19 now viewing area, but right along the Owen County line. The forecast crest is 55 feet. Again, this is for Sunday afternoon. If that verifies, the second highest on record. The record, not far off from this, roughly 56.9 feet on January 26th of 1937, followed by 53.6 feet set back March 6, 97. So the forecast is to supersede that. So right now, if that forecast does verify, it would be the second highest on record for the Kentucky River over at Lockport. Just wanted to show those things because this really shows how significant this flooding has been and will be in the coming days. So let's take a pause real quick. This is our forecast model. We'll dive into that. But first, let's look at those Facebook comments and questions on the Fox 19 Facebook page. First comment from Jan says common sense stuff, referring to my soapbox at the very beginning about not driving in flooded roadways. Yeah, it is, but it happens so often that we have to say it. If there were no injuries or fatalities or anyone being stuck or needing rescued on flooded roadways, then I would never have to say it. But unfortunately, it happens. But thank you, Jan, for commenting. Linda says good morning from Ellesmere. Hey, good morning to you, Linda. Darla says, welcome back. With these storms we've had, are we expecting more this week? No. We are looking at drier weather trying to work in. In fact, in the next 2 weeks, the outlook does promise drier conditions, drier than average conditions, in addition to a warm-up eventually. But we got to deal with some cooler weather this week. We do have some rain chances tomorrow, which we'll talk about here in a moment. Some rain chances on Monday, and then we also have some rain chances, I believe, on Thursday. I have not updated the 7-day forecast yet. I will be this afternoon, and I will make an update on the First Alert Weather app. This morning it's just been a lot of data chugging between the river levels, looking at the historical levels, rainfall totals, which I'll dive into here in a moment as well, and then also looking at the model data for this afternoon, this evening, tonight, and of course on Sunday. Barb says, good morning, Ethan. Hey, good morning to you. Pam says good morning from, I believe that's Newark, Ohio, unless there is a newer Ohio. If so, good morning to you from there. Jessica also chiming in saying good morning. All right, let's go ahead and move along here to the forecast model data. So the model data, it's not doing the best of job, but it's at least getting the concept down. It's at least indicating, yeah, we got drier air already to the east. We got some drier air to the west. We just have some showers here. Might be overdoing this just a little bit, but regardless, we've got rain here this morning for some, especially in our southwestern location. So let's go ahead and play this in the full motion here. So we go into the lunch hour. This is around noon. Still got some moderate rainfall for areas along and south of the Ohio River, including Brown and Adams counties in southwest Ohio. But do note, at the top left of the screen, that's northwest, drier air is going to try to work in for this midday and early afternoon. So 3, 4 o'clock, still got some dry patches. So this will be, we'll consider this scattered rain for 3, 4 o'clock. After 4 o'clock, though, we're going to see kind of a surge of A, the temperatures, and B, inflow of moisture. So rain is going to eventually move in. And even some thunderstorms can't be ruled out with this. And again, I did mention there's that conditional risk of a strong thunderstorm, perhaps even a severe thunderstorm. And the areas most prone to seeing that potential will be along and east of I-71, especially if you're in Robertson, Mason, Brown, Adams, Highland, Lewis counties. All have that conditional risk for a strong to severe thunderstorm. Again, all modes of severe weather on the table, but primarily looking at the potential for damaging straight-line winds, hail, and of course flooding. But you're going to see when I play this, the next couple of hours after 6 p.m., you're going to see more sharp increases of red, dark orange. You already have some of that orange here with some of that heavy rain. And I will say too, everyone, not only dealing with the flooding risk, but also you're going to hear some rumbles of thunder, might even see some lightning. So keep that in mind. There will be some thunderstorms here this afternoon, this evening. A lot of locations, nothing severe, aside from the flooding risk, of course. But the severe weather threat is primarily focused to our south and east. Again, this is 6 o'clock. We play this out towards 8 o'clock, as I mentioned. Those southeastern locations, do notice that greater color of red, even dark red, indicative of that strong storm risk. Those areas to the south and east, again, under the greatest threat. This is 8 o'clock. We go to 9, 10 o'clock, that severe threat begins to fall apart. And then we're looking at overnight hours, just rounds of moderate to heavy rain, especially for areas along and south of the Ohio River. So maybe you're in northwestern portions of the tri-state area. Maybe you're in Connorsville or Brookville. You won't see as much rain today, but you're still going to see a lot of rain. But areas south of the Ohio River, looking at a lot of rainfall in addition to what we've already been experiencing. Again, this is going into the overnight hours tonight into Sunday morning. We head into Sunday morning, there's 5:30. We got some scattered light showers, perhaps some drizzle. Models have a hard time really depicting drizzle, and I think in this instance, that could be what we're looking at here. So some areas of drizzle, light rain Sunday morning. Head into Sunday midday, early afternoon. Still some hit or miss showers. Then we go into Sunday afternoon, still some scattered showers. But do note, temperatures are falling. So Sunday afternoon, temperatures will fall. And again, I'm going to update the 7-day forecast, so that may not reflect the temperatures falling on Sunday. But temperatures will be falling through the day. And with 30s, there could be maybe a few wet snowflakes, maybe a little bit of grapple. If you don't know what grapple is, it's basically a snowflake, because every precipitation starts off as a snowflake. As it falls, it interacts with supercooled water, which is water droplets that are liquid form, temperatures below freezing. It attaches to that snowflake, instantly freezes. So it's a little ice ball that has a snowflake in it, essentially. Anyway, though, you're going to see that, maybe some sleet. Actually, no, take that back, not sleet. Maybe some hail, potentially some hail. Hail, grapple, cold raindrops Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, not today. Tomorrow, looking at that potential for maybe some cold raindrops in addition to some hail and grapple. So that is the model data. Sunday afternoon, the rain will eventually taper off Sunday evening, and then we are looking at more rain chances on Monday, but it looks to be on a much lighter scale. So when it comes to rainfall, how much rain are we going to see? This is additional, so we've already seen anywhere from 2 to more than 5 inches of rain. This is what's in addition to that. So imagine the grounds are already very soggy. When you have the rainfall coming in today, tonight, and tomorrow, it's going to have a lot of issues. That's why we're talking about ongoing flood conditions, of course. So here we go. This evening, tonight, anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to more than an inch of rain by midnight. Through the overnight hours into Sunday midday. And this is pretty much where it eventually stops. I could show you the rest, but it ain't going to change too much. But the focus here is anywhere from 1 to more than 3 inches of rain. The highest rainfall totals, areas along and south of the Ohio River. That's where that moderate risk of excessive rainfall is located. Areas along the Ohio River, pretty much following U.S. Route 50 into I-71 corridor, into I-74, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches. And in our far northern counties, Connorsville, Liberty, Brookville, Westchester, Waynesville, Middletown, Hamilton, those locations, maybe closer to an inch of rain. But still, a lot of rainfall from what we're already experienced so far. So, a lot to unpack there. But we're looking at this active weather pattern continuing today, tonight, into tomorrow morning. Now, as I mentioned, 2 things. One, the first alert forecast, the 7-day, not quite updated yet. Just been pretty busy this morning. But I will update it here in a little bit after this weather stream. And I'll update that for the app, social, and of course on our website. But secondly, dry weather does eventually move in. And we are looking at that drier weather working in at times on Monday, but more so on Tuesday. And Tuesday, if you got plants, which I know there's been a lot more green lately, especially on the trees, the ground, of course, flower beds, gardens, things of that nature, there's a potential for frost. And we'll discuss that here in a moment. But first, again, this is a very complex system. You see all that yellow and orange down towards Arkansas, where the Memphis is the locator of Memphis and St. Louis are. That is a risk for some strong, severe storms down that way. We won't see that risk except for the conditional risk in our south and eastern locations. It's a slight risk, whereas those folks down that way is under an enhanced risk. We go into Sunday morning, still some lingering showers, light rain in the afternoon, and then Monday we could see maybe some drizzle in the evening hours, some very light rain. Otherwise, though, Monday, a lot drier. In fact, more dry than wet. Tuesday, we look dry. Then we go into Wednesday. And there's a chance for some rain Wednesday evening, Wednesday night, and that chance does continue into Thursday. So Thursday, we're looking at rain. Now, keep in mind, we're not looking at anything dark green, or I should say yellow, really. There is some dark green. So mainly light to perhaps some moderate rain moving in on Thursday. Then we go into Thursday night, into Friday. Drier weather tries to move in. We head into Saturday of April 12th, April 13th, drier weather. And then the pattern favors dry conditions for the middle of the month of April, going into even leading up to Good Friday. Encouraging news. So quieter pattern. Now, I can't say there's not going to be a chance of rain by that point. There very well could be, but it does not look active like this past week has been. So at this point, we're going to take a look at that 7-day forecast. Before we do, take a pause real quick and look at those Facebook comments and questions. Jessica says, is there any warmer weather ahead? Yes. It looks warmer by the end of this upcoming week into that weekend, and with that drier pattern coming in the following week, so the week leading up to Good Friday, it does look encouraging. It does look warmer. Temperatures in the 60s, perhaps even some 70s rolling around by then, Jessica. So, yes, eventually. We've got to deal with some cooler weather this upcoming week, though, beginning tomorrow. Russell says, good morning. Hey, good morning to you. Tom says, hey, Ethan, how does a person find out if it was a tornado in Silver Grove? Good question. You might want to reach out to the folks at the National Weather Service office in Wilmington. They are the ones that conduct tornado surveys. They've been swamped, and I say that unintentionally a pun, with a lot of course, the active weather and then limited staffing. So with that, you want to reach out to them at the National Weather Service office in Wilmington. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but Tom, if you look up the National Weather Service office in Wilmington, they have a Facebook page. They should have a phone number on that Facebook page where you can give them a call. Let them know if there's what the damage is. Images really help with them, and then an estimate of time when that damage occurred, Tom. That'd be a good way to start to find out. Otherwise, we really can't. We can look at radar data, but that's about the limit we can do. There are certain training exercises you got to do to know the different types of damage. There's a lot of indicators, and I'll admit I don't have that certification, so I can't really say. Aaron says, no more rain. We don't need it in Dearborn County and Ohio County. That's where I live. Yeah, we don't need the rain anywhere else. I mean, it's been a lot of rain for everybody, especially in Switzerland, Ohio counties, Dearborn County, and then obviously all over northern Kentucky. Jake says, we're all getting that lakefront property with all this rain. Yeah, no joke about that. I mean, there's a lot of flooding, a lot of ponding yards and everything else. So no doubt about that. Yeager says, how is Middletown, Ohio looking for flooding? I believe we didn't have it on the list, but from what I remember on the map, I want to say it's minor flood stage at Middletown, because there's a flood warning in effect for the river nearby. So yes, minor flood stage. The forecast crest, if I remember correctly, is going to be tonight into tomorrow morning for you, Yeager. So you can check out details. I believe it's water. I posted on my Facebook page. I will double check that URL for you. So if you're listening, Yeager, if I mispronounced your name, I apologize. I'm just assuming it's Yeager. The URL that you want to see if you want to know the river forecast and crest for your location, if I don't mention it, it's water.noaa.gov or water.noaa.gov, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. A lot of good folks out that way, a lot of my friends who work there. Obviously, we've all been very busy with this forecast. Gary says, Falmouth here, what's the river crest? It's getting close to my house. Well, Gary, it's unfortunately going to be a lot higher than what you're experiencing right now. Before we show the 7-day forecast, since Gary just joined us, I do want to show Falmouth. And that's a lot of information here. But here's Falmouth, Gary. Licking River at Falmouth. Flood stage is 33. It's currently 35 feet. The forecast crest is tomorrow evening at 42.1 feet. So it's going to rise several feet here in the next 24 hours. In fact, the next 36 hours. So if the water's already getting close to your house, you might want to consider relocating. By no means am I telling you to do that right now, but it's just not a bad idea to look into those options. I know a lot of communities down that live along the river are going to be experiencing the decision of needing to relocate. If I remember correctly, the community of Butler in Grant County, they had voluntary evacuations, meaning that they're not being forced to, but not a bad idea. And I'm sure a lot of communities may be following that soon, considering how high these water levels are going to go, especially the Kentucky River at Lockport. That forecast is crest to be the second highest on record, if it verifies, at 55 feet. That's down in southern Owen County by tomorrow evening. Drama, if I mispronounced your name, I apologize. Are we getting heavy rain tonight? Yes, I discussed it earlier. As much as 3 inches of rain for areas along and south of the Ohio River this evening, tonight into Sunday morning. So a lot of heavy rain on the way, in addition to what we've already been experiencing. That's why it's another first alert weather day. So here's 7-day forecast. Again, I have not updated the numbers, so there might be something that you might see different when I do an app push later this morning and this early afternoon. But here's the latest. Before I go any further, Gary says voluntary relocation too. Okay, so that's good to know that a lot of other communities are taking notice of this and pushing that out there. Again, the community, they can say all they want, but voluntary relocation is a good way of putting it. So, Gary, I would consider that if it's already getting close to your house. Okay, here's 7-day forecast. I'll put this up full screen for you, that way you can see the numbers yourself. So we got a high of 66 today, showers and a few rumbles of thunder, especially going into this evening. Showers and thunderstorms tonight. Could be looking at some very heavy rainfall, again as much as 3 inches of rain to our southern counties. Our northern counties, about an inch of rain if you're in Fayette, Union, Butler, Warren counties, but locally high amounts of rainfall will be possible. Again, this is in addition to what's already fallen. Then Sunday, rain's going to taper off, so most of the rain in the morning, but afternoon could have some scattered showers. Temperatures will steadily fall through the day. Monday, we're looking at afternoon and evening drizzle possible, so very light rain. Tuesday, partly cloudy, 48. Wednesday, we are looking at a chance of rain in the evening hours, but then better opportunities of rain move in Thursday. And then temperatures will eventually warm up, getting into the 60s. And by Friday, the Reds are back in town, and hey, what do you know? Partly cloudy, looks much drier from that point. So that's 7-day forecast. Again, I'm going to update these numbers, and with that, I will do a 14-day forecast. That will be on the app, on the website, and on the 24/7 weather streaming channel here after a bit. Got to go through all the numbers, plug and chug, but this morning's been pretty busy with monitoring all the river levels and all the heavy rain that moved through last night. But take one last look at the Facebook comments and questions before we go forward. Sarah, that's a good Samaritan question. How can I volunteer to help with cleanup? That's a great question. There's a lot of different organizations and programs that do cleanup. Time right now, I would say, probably aren't doing anything at the moment because it's still happening. But I would say after those forecast crests, so after tomorrow, going into the work week, there are probably going to be a lot of organizations wanting help. I would say American Red Cross, probably a good option to look into. Trying to think of other ones. There's a lot of different organizations obviously around here. Too many to really note. But you bring up a really good point, Sarah. So what I would do, what I'm going to do, I'm going to reach out to one of our producers and see if we could do a story on this perhaps, maybe tonight or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow, because tonight our focus is going to be on the heavy rain and the storm threat tonight. But Sarah, that's a great question. I would say probably not going to be any organizations doing things at the moment because it's still ongoing, it's still happening. Because usually these organizations wait until it passes, because if they try to help now when the water levels are rising, when we have more rainfall, it puts not only them or the people they're trying to help in danger, but it puts themselves in danger, and it really is a negative thing. It doesn't really help. Not to mention you're in the way of obviously a lot of the happenings. So Sarah, I would say check back tomorrow. Once the majority of this heavy rain passes, I'll talk to our producers and we get a reporter to look into this, because that's a great question. Seriously, kudos to you for looking at that. And then Ken says, thanks for doing these lives. Absolutely. We do these that way you're informed, because I know we understand. Might not have the best service of television. Can't really see sometimes. I get that. I still use antenna TV. And we do it just that way we can deep dive into the weather, the science, because there's no time restrictions. And I talk a lot, just to be honest. Okay, at this point, we're going to go ahead and log off here. I'm going to go ahead and dive into this first alert forecast, and we'll post that update here coming up later today. And of course, meteorologist Aaron Ashley will have your update coming up on 19 at 6, wherever you stream. And I'll be back here tomorrow morning at 10:15, following the morning newscast from 7 to 10, right here on Fox 19. So again, thank you so much for those of you joining us and have joined us here on this 19 at 10:15 weekend weather show. We do it every weekend morning at 10:15. And we try to do it wherever you can stream. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and close things off here. Again, thank you for joining us. Stay safe, stay dry, and make sure you listen to local authorities, whether it's a voluntary evacuation or if you see flood signs or flooded roadways, make sure you adhere to those because they're out there for a reason. They want to keep you safe. But at this point, we're going to close things off. Thank you for those of you who joined us. Have yourself a wonderful Saturday afternoon.